Since yesterday, Monday, May 21st, we've been having our partners from the Caribbean region, partners of Catholic Relief Services, participate in what is called a hurricane simulation exercise, for short SIMEX. It's essentially an event where our partners that come from different countries within the Caribbean, ranging from Trinidad and Tobago all the way up to Jamaica, have the opportunity to test their emergency preparedness and response plans in advance of hurricane season. Our partners have been feeling the pressure of what it is to actually simulate an emergency. They've also had an opportunity to coordinate amongst themselves for a potential regional response, while at the same time also coordinating with local and national authorities within their countries and institutions. And I think what's important to highlight is that the purpose of these simulations is also to make mistakes and to have this room for error making and learning from these errors, because at the end of the day, it's important to make the mistakes now or navigate these areas for improvement, so when there's actually the hurricane, fingers crossed it does not happen, but if it were to happen this year, that they're very well prepared and are able to respond and serve the most vulnerable. The SIMEX is divided in 3 phases. The first phase is 72 hours pre-landfall. So what do they have to do? How do they coordinate 72 hours before a hurricane hits the islands in which they live? The second phase is 48 hours post-landfall. So we've had the devastating experience of the hurricane hitting the island and then departing. So within those next 48 hours, what happens? What takes place? And lastly, 3 weeks post-landfall, right? So we're more so getting into a response, but implementing projects, right? And also even being able to understand what the impact has been in the communities that we've served through the projects of humanitarian response.
The simulation gives you it's basically a real life scenario, so that in time that something actually does happen, then you'll be able to say, okay, I've tried this before, it didn't work in the simulation, but I know this was the stronger standpoint. We will move with that. We know that we may not be able to help everybody, but we know that we have the ability to help certain areas, and from that we make wise choices and allocate our resources in the appropriate way.
Lots of things to put into place, lots of challenges, because rightfully so, until the disaster happens, people don't really want to think about it, with all the other things that are on their plate and that they are, the ministry that we are doing. But at the end of the day, we are going to go back in to have a reporting, but also putting a disaster plan into place that will also bring in all these other aspects that I just didn't have before.
The end game of all of this is being able to have an effective response in emergencies. So if a hurricane impact us, earthquake, whatever it is, in this case we are looking at a hurricane scenario. But the idea is to have capable, trained responders in our communities. So the simulation exercise, this is a 2-part workshop. The simulation part of it is to ensure that all that we've learned and all the plans that we have, we can test it in a tabletop manner to ensure that we identify any potential gaps or deficiencies in it, to iron that out before we have an impact. We live in a very volatile part of the world. So whether it's hurricanes, whether it's volcanoes or earthquake, so we need to prepare almost for the eventuality that is going to happen sometime. So as many of us are exposed to training or have trained with some capacity to respond, the better and more resilient our little countries, our little islands would be. So I'm encouraging everybody who has blood in the vein to partake in the training that are exposed. So we have a program here called YAC, Youth Emergency Action Committee. We are in all parishes of Grenada, including Pidimati and Carrigo, to come out or give of themselves or their children, it's a youth program, to be able to be trained to respond. Like I said, the more that personnel that we have trained on the ground in the communities, is more resilient we all will be.